Pokemon Go recently announced the single biggest update to this game since the 2020 COVID bonuses were reverted. Remote raid passes are getting obliterated. And the biggest question is, will this kill the game? Also, what does this mean for this channel that you're watching this video on, the future of the Mystic 7 channel? Things are gonna change here. Now, let's review the exact changes, what I think about them, and how I think they're gonna impact the game. For context, I have played this game since release, and I'm someone who has spent thousands of dollars consistently on remote raids. So my perspective might differ from yours. Okay, biggest change. The price of remote raids are nearly doubling. Single remote raid passes will go from 100 to 195 Pokecoins, and the bundle will go from 300 to 525. Nice part is the regular raid pass bundle is going from 300 Pokecoins down to 250. And the biggest reason why this is all happening is because Niantic believes that the remote raid passes are fundamentally unbalanced. They're broken, they're too OP, as stated in the opening of the announcement for this by Niantic. Apparently, the ability to raid super duper rare Pokemon from your home for the same price as a regular raid pass is just way too overpowered. So they think, and unfortunately, I kind of agree. Logically, the amount of value that a player retains from a remote raid pass is significantly higher than from a normal raid pass. Well, I mean, sort of. You can use regular raid passes for the premium track in PvP, and you can't do that with remote raid passes. So technically, each pass has something that the other one can't do. Now, is the ability to take a raid remotely nearly 2 times more valuable than being able to get better and bigger rewards from PvP? I mean, it depends on the player, obviously. But regardless of the answer, making an already expensive item nearly 2 times more expensive, I mean, that's an insane jump, and puts remote raids much further out of people's reach, and will honestly completely destroy the playstyle of a lot of players around the world. Plenty of people are gonna quit over this, and rightfully so. If you live in a place where you don't have many gyms or raids around you, and you count on remote raid invites from friends, having to now pay double for remote raids just might not be worth it. Making Pokemon Go as a whole just not worth it for a lot of people. Niantic knows how much money they're currently making on remote raids, and they know how much less they're gonna make with this update. So this whole thing probably isn't just about money for them. Reminder that the goal of Niantic and Pokemon Go is to get out and explore an adventure, and it seems like they're definitely sticking to their guns when it comes to that objective. But if money didn't super matter in this decision, I think a far more fair adjustment could have been made to the passes. For example, however many Pokecoins the remote raid passes went up, the normal raid passes would go down. So if the remote raid passes went up by 50 Pokecoins, the regular passes would go down 50. That would have felt like an actually fair adjustment because it would have been anchored in the current reality of Pokemon Go, based on the current prices. Nearly 2 timesing the price on literally anything is a ridiculous jump and will make most people stop buying that thing unless they absolutely need it. The remote raid pass bundle is going up by 75% in price, while the regular raid pass bundle is going down only 16%. If the difference in value between these 2 items is actually that significant, then this is a clear lapse in foresight from Niantic's decision in 2020 when releasing the remote raids. Now, I think we can all agree that the way Niantic handled the COVID pandemic was nearly perfect. They made a lot of adjustments really quickly. They kept the game fun and alive, and if anything, revived the game, and they do deserve a lot of credit for that. They made some great decisions then, and they're trying to sort of undo them now as fairly as possible. And this change just doesn't seem fair to the community. And this isn't the only change happening to remote raid passes that are significant. There's now a limit on how many remote raid passes that you can complete in a day, and that limit is an insanely low number. 5. Although apparently this limit will be adjusted in the future for specific events, but like, that doesn't even make much sense to me. If they're gonna increase the amount of remote raids that you could do in a day during a special event when there's like more sought after Pokemon in the raids, then why have the limit exist at all? Especially during times when like more boring or plain Pokemon are in the raids. Now, we will have to see how exactly they're gonna handle this specific adjustment in the future, because honestly, if they do it right, we might not even feel the effects of the 5 raid pass daily maximum when it counts. Also, just in general, 5 raids, remote raids in a day just feels way too low. But I am 100% sure that far less than 5% of the player base uses more than 5 remote raid passes in a day. Probably less than 1%. Most people will just use 1 or 2 remote raid passes to get the legendary in their Pokedex, and then maybe like a handful more throughout the week to hopefully get the shiny if they're lucky. Then they call it there. Now, there are plenty of hardcore players like myself who will do anywhere between 10 to 50 remote raids in a day for new or rare Pokemon. But again, we account for probably like less than 5 or maybe even less than 1% of the entire player base. So although this change seems significant, realistically, it's probably not that. And obviously, raiding itself isn't being limited, just remote raiding. So if a new shiny legendary comes out and you want to get it day 1, you could still do 5 remote raids, maybe get lucky, and if not, complete the other 15 raids in person because shiny odds are 1 in 20. But ironically, the amount of players who probably know and have enough people in real life to go out and do 15 raids is also probably like 5%, if that. Maybe a little more. It is hard as a single player to find a community of people to play and raid with. And what will make that easier that Niantic is currently working on is their new feature and application Campfire, which will be integrated directly into Pokemon Go, and it's going to help players coordinate with their communities, find raids, do all that kind of stuff. The only problem is it's not completed yet, and it's not globally available, which is a bit ridiculous that a massive change and nerf to remote raids is happening before the proposed in-game solution is even ready to go. This all would have been received much better from the community if the nerf happened at the same time that Campfire was being released globally, because although we're having a huge part of the game severely limited, at least a partial, if not huge, solution would have been released simultaneously. So 5 remote raids seems significant. Probably not that bad. I will say that will severely impact this channel, but we will talk about that later. Because there's another change that, man, I'm so subtly annoyed by. Okay, when you open your research breakthrough box from now on, you could possibly get a remote raid pass. That is an awesome idea and an awesome update. Thank you, Niantic. And this basically brings back the 1 Pokecoin remote raid pass bundle, assuming you actually get the remote raid pass when you open the box, which we have no idea what the drop rates will be. They could be good, they could be bad, it doesn't matter. But we all know that for whatever reason, you're only allowed to store 3 remote raid passes at a time in your inventory. While, by the way, you can hold infinite regular raid passes. So if you open your research breakthrough box and you happen to get a remote raid pass, but you already have 3 in your inventory, you will get a regular raid pass instead. But I thought the regular raid passes were nearly 2 times the value. That doesn't make sense. But that's not the most annoying part of this to me. The most annoying part, which, man, kind of gets to me, is that if you have 2 remote raid passes in your inventory, you still can buy the 3 remote raid pass bundle, giving yourself 5 remote raid passes in your inventory. You can buy that extra space, technically. But if you get one for free out of your research breakthrough box, the rule doesn't apply. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. That is like insult to injury. And if anything should be changed out of any of this, it at least should be that. Also, another actually great change that's happening is that people who raid in person will get more, apparently a lot more, XL candies than before. XL candy is currently the most important and valuable resource in the entire game, other than Stardust. So that is a wonderful change, and it actually makes sense. If the plan is to essentially limit and de-incentivize remote raiding, then in-person raiding should be much more incentivized, preferably at the same rate, which is definitely not what's happening here, even though they say it does. Rewarding trainers with additional XL candy and adding other new features are 2 of the ways we hope to further incentivize playing Pokemon Go in person with your friends, family, and community. And what are these other new features that they're pointing to as justification for these changes? Number 1, elite raids, which are honestly a great feature in addition to the game. But the raid boss quality went from a honestly very, very cool mythical Pokemon to now releasing Pokemon in the elite raids that should just be normal tier 5 raid bosses. Elite raid boss quality has been on a very steady and very strong downhill trend since its release. And not to mention the whole feature has been completely bugged and just full of problems, especially for the other side of the world. I mean, overall, great concept, it's a great feature, it just does not offset this current blow to remote raids. Next thing, Campfire, which yes, Campfire does help fix a lot of the problems that this remote raid pass nerf will create, but it's not globally live yet, and it's not completed in general. And finally, the Community Ambassador Program. And in their words, this program, available in select areas, nurtures in-person Pokemon Go communities while also fostering new communities for trainers to find. We've added 200 community ambassadors from around the globe since its launch last August. Man, there's tens of millions of players. Let me know in the comments if this is your first time hearing about the Community Ambassador Program. I do think this is a cool idea, and it's a cool thing for Niantic to do for local communities, but dog, how are you gonna scale this fast enough for it to be even remotely relevant enough in the next, year? And is it even scaled and relevant enough right now to players to use it as a justification for the remote raid pass nerf? Again, Niantic is trying really, really hard right now to revert the game to where it was before COVID in the most fair way possible, but at the end of the day, regardless of what the community believes to be fair, they are gonna make their own decisions based on their own agenda of the game. Trainer Tips made a great point in his most recent video stating, "There's nothing that can be done to change this. Niantic is not changing their minds on this. I can promise you every single suggestion, every alternative that the community could possibly come up with has already already been shared with Niantic, and we've still arrived to this point. And the initial revert of the COVID bonuses last year showed that. They made huge changes to revert the game to what it was before COVID that was obviously unfair to the community. And even after an incredible amount of community outrage, they really only slightly reverted the changes. They really only slightly rolled back the reversions, and also just didn't really follow through on their promises to communicate with or consult with or inform the community on future big changes. It's their game, which means they get to do what they want with it. Which leads me to the channel that you're watching now, the Mystic 7 channel. For context, I'm currently the #1 largest Pokemon Go creator and absolutely the most consistent one over the last 6 years since the game's been out. Pokemon Go is quite literally my life, and my entire career is currently resting on it. That's fun. I do make Pokemon Go videos full-time as my job, and these changes and ones like it ultimately impact my ability to create content, which ultimately impacts my life and career. So how will this update affect my channel and my brand? Am I quitting? Obviously, the popular Shiny Transfer Challenge videos where I transfer a Shiny whenever the legendary I'm hunting isn't Shiny is probably gonna cease to exist. It was a fun year of completely annihilating my Shiny collection, but luckily for them, these videos will probably full stop. Also, any challenge to try to complete like 100 raids in 24 hours or any of those raid-focused or raid-specific videos and challenges will most likely be super hard to do anymore, and I probably will have to not do that. Which honestly sucks because we've done a lot of those videos in the past year and they've been super fun. I also can pretty confidently say that I will no longer be streaming on Twitch, which is a bit of a tragic announcement to make since over the past like 2-3 years we've fostered and had so much fun with the community over there. But I will say I will still be streaming in the future, probably just not for Pokemon Go. Got a cool thing though, my brother Jake and I will be consistently streaming opening Pokemon card packs over on the platform Whatnot, and on YouTube as well on the Mystic 7 Rips channel, which by the way, I'll be putting a ton of time and effort into. We're gonna be uploading on that channel 2 to 4 times per week, really putting a lot of effort into making some of like the highest quality, most fun Pokemon card videos. And pretty much all of the cool things that we end up opening and getting over on that channel will be given away as prizes during the Whatnot streams and breaks. Like for example, this coming Friday, April 7th at 3:30 p.m. PST, myself and Jake will be opening up 2 insane vintage Pokemon card boxes, a base set unlimited box featuring the OG Holo Charizard, and a first edition fossil booster box with great cards like Lapras and Articuno. And during the stream, we'll have amazing prizes like graded Pokemon cards, some vintage stuff, sealed packs. Will definitely be a great way to get some guaranteed, real, legit vintage packs, and also maybe some extra fire. And how it works is each and every one of the packs begins at $1 and just gets bid up from there. And we'll be doing streams like this, opening Pokemon card packs and giving out prizes roughly 3 times per week on Whatnot. And again, sometimes over on either Twitch or on the Mystic 7 Reps YouTube channel. So if that's at all of interest to you, vintage Pokemon cards or modern stuff, the Pokemon Company actually just recently sent me these guys, the new Scarlet and Violet set. So we'll be doing a bunch of like breaks and stuff over on Whatnot with the new pack and sets. There's a link for Whatnot down in the description that will actually give you $15 in credit just for signing up. So that's cool. We'll be streaming a ton over there. And as for the Mystic 7 channel and the Pokemon Go content overall, it will continue. Obviously, this raid pass change will impact myself and my content flow, but it won't destroy it, or my goal is to provide the best and most high-quality Pokemon Go videos possible. And I honestly think for a lot of players, this remote raid pass nerf, although it sucks, I don't think it's that fair, I don't think it's really well timed, but I also don't think it's gonna kill the game or really prevent it from growing. So Pokemon Go continue, and as will the content over here on the Mystic 7 channel. But definitely let me know in the comments what your thoughts on this entire situation are. And again, if you're interested at all in the Pokemon card pack stuff, links in the description. Thank you for watching, see you in the next video.